as a leader, it is our obligation and responsibility to be a resource and a connector with our people so that they can actually be better as a result, not just in their work performance, but in who they are as people. Our goal is to grow human beings. And when you get that, the worker voice ends up feeling that they are really a part of something that is investing back in them, which improves well-being as a whole.
Hi, and welcome to Captivating Health Insights. Today we have a bonus episode and we're talking about leading for well-being. I'm very excited to welcome back Dr. Claire Musselman. Welcome back, Claire.
Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited for this topic because leadership for well-being, I think, is so important in the workplace today. If we were to kind of just go big picture here, why is modeling well-being so important for employee health?
Well, let's think about it just from like the basics. You are responsible for the energy that you bring into a room. And that energy is going to either add value to people or it's going to take it away. There is no neutrality. And when we think about how we show up in our workplaces and how we are trying to utilize our influence in the best capacity possible, you've got to think about how are you leaving people feeling after interacting with you, after getting messaging from you. Like, we all know that feeling when somebody sends a text message and you look, and you're like, ugh. We got to think about that as leaders. How are we showing up in our workplaces? And a lot of that is our own responsibility, and all of that energy, all of that energetic exchange actually comes from within, to kind of a lot about what we talked about on our last podcast of looking at that life force pyramid. Your cognitive load, your energy balance at the beginning of the day is all about how you have been taking care of yourself. So again, you're responsible for the energy that you bring into a room. That impacts your confidence, your motivation, just your overall sense of purpose and being, and that absolutely pours out onto the people that you are going to be surrounding yourself with. So I like to think about it as when you enter a room, like if you're coming into a meeting, you're coming into a lunchroom, are people paying attention? Do they notice? Do they feel good by the fact that you've entered the room, or do they not? And if we think about, there's this old saying, you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself most by. I mean, think about how are you utilizing your influence around your employees if you are one of those people that they spend their most time with. Things to think about when we start to look at this from a leadership perspective.
Yes, and what does the research say about this connection between leadership and employee health?
So this is where we look at it from a modeling standpoint. This is like a social bias, social experiment where we tend to do what our leaders showcase for us. And it kind of goes back to think about parenting too. Don't do as I do as I say.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
No, that's not the way that we function. So let's look at it from this standpoint. If your leader sends you emails on the weekend, you're going to look. Now, a lot of times organizations will say, well, no, we don't expect them to check emails on the weekend. But if your employee sees an email from their boss, they're going to look.
Yeah.
They're going to do something with it. So this is where, if we want to lead by example, it is simple elements like that, like something so simple. I'm just going to use the email example because we've all done it, or we've sent the late night emails, or we've sent something. It ends up emotionally hijacking our employees. So if we don't do it, and let's say we stop emails after 4 o'clock, our employees are like, oh, I don't get interrupted during my family time. And this isn't just about emails. This is also like when you're on paid time off. When you're on vacation, are you still sending emails, or do you schedule them when you are returning to the office? Because you're setting a very clear expectation of what you expect from your people by your behaviors, not by what you say. Well, no, I'm on vacation, but I'm just going to respond to a couple of these emails. It's sending a very clear message that when you're off, you're not really off.
Right.
So when we look at this from a health and wellness standpoint, and I think the email and the PTO demonstrate a mental health and well-being. Can you really be off? And that is very indicative of what that organizational culture looks like. I mean, I will say I worked at a third-party administrator where we weren't allowed to set out of office unless you were going to be gone more than a week. Okay, now in my newer world, I like to set out of offices so people know, hey, it's not you. I'll get back to you, but just so you know, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. So people feel validated or heard or seen that, okay, I saw your email, or it's been received. I'll get to it. Just know that it's not going to be on your timetable. It will be on mine. And so we've got to think about, like, how are people receiving that? Because this is how, again, we leave people feeling. We're looking at an energetic exchange, and all of this circles back to, all right, what does that look like from a relationship standpoint, and leading by example through behavioral action versus just, I'm saying this, but I don't live it myself. This is where it becomes a you problem. And we like you problems because you can fix you problems.
Right. And so what's the impact if a leader is neglecting their own personal well-being, even unintentionally?
Sure.
What's the impact that that has on their team?
Well, let's look at boundaries, for example. Okay, so let's say we expect people to be in an office from 8 to 4:30. Let's just use that as an example. And so we've got leaders that might be in there very early and stay really late. What you're communicating to people is that that is the clear expectation, regardless of what your policies say. I also would look at that, knowing what I know now, and say, you lack time management skills if you really need to be there. Also, we tend to look at the visual representation from a communication standpoint of seeing people, and that is indicative of value add or organizational output, regardless of what the metrics say. So this is when we start to look at being very strategic when you are going to be visual or visible, so visible leadership. We want to pay attention to what's going on really from the work standpoint and then highlight that versus it being these arbitrary things that don't actually matter. So we look at this from a political capital. Within a workplace. Being politically savvy in the workforce is very important, and this impacts people's well-being, especially the mental health, on things that don't really matter. So there was this whole concept of like water cooler gossip, like that's how you get to know people and whatnot. And so when we've had the workforce change and become a more remote workforce dynamic, you lose a lot of that. Mm-hmm. What we've gained from that, though, is more intentional time to spend with people. Now you might lose some of the office gossip or whatnot, but truly, does any of that really impact our organizational output? Some organizations are going to force those activities that some people didn't want to go to anyway. You're trying to figure out what are other options for us to build camaraderie through leading through actionable behavior that's going to give an output that we all want, whether it be improved performance, better organizational objectives, having an increased efficiencies within your team, happier team members, collaborative team members. There's a lot that goes into that, and it starts by paying attention to what examples are we setting. So I've never been somebody that cares if you're there at 8 o'clock or not, or if you're logged in by 8 o'clock. I just need to know that your work's done, and I don't want to get complaints. But also, when we're doing things like that, or we're going to give that leeway of people, assuming that people can operate with autonomy and do what they say they're going to do because we're all adults, you've got to have very clear expectations, responsibilities, and then the accountability to follow through. So I can give you all the leeway. You can work wherever you want. I don't care about that. But then when the ball drops, if it ever does, you have to then circle back because the other team members will see, they suffer, etc. And so this is really about communication and understanding that people have different needs to be met at different times. We look at this also from like an empathy standpoint. If we've got somebody that, might have some other factors going on, maybe you work with them in that situation. As long as the work product is still what it needs to be successful, who cares what that looks like? I was recently working with a broker who has a neurodivergent team member. And so the hours that a stereotypical office would be open don't work well for that employee. So she went to bat for this employee, and the office hours have shifted. And guess what? That employee is performing fantastically. This is where we lead by example for wellness, of paying attention to how well do you know your team? What does your team need? And then just being brave enough to do something about it. Action. Those action-oriented items. And so going back to how do we know when leaders aren't being healthy? You can tell. There's a lack of boundaries that exist from work time to do you actually have, do you do what you say you're going to do from a time standpoint? Are you respectful of people's parameters for meetings? I'm a huge believer, no agenda, no attenda, which
I love that.
Be careful on
no
that
agenda,
one.
No attenda.
But leaders
Okay.
should. If you want somebody to, meetings are the biggest waste of time if you look at it from an operational dollar standpoint.
Yeah.
You calculate every single person that we bring into a meeting. dollar for dollar,
Yeah.
is that worth it? Or should it have been an email or a memo or a quick chit chat, phone call, you name it? Is it really the best use of people's times? So if you are a leader that is going to set a meeting, why do you want those people there? What value are they going to add? Do they need to be there? Because a lot of times we end up with, if we're going to look at this from a wellness standpoint, you've got meetings from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock of all these meetings of people wanting your time. When are you actually going to get your work done?
Exactly. At night, on the weekends, no thank you.
Yeah, which is, we look at work-life balance, or what I like to call it the work-life continuum, because there are certain times in our careers where we got to grind, and there's certain times of our lives that you've got a little bit more leeway, like, the last 2 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Just difference of opinion, I think, on how we talk about things, but also how are you leading by the actions that support that.
I love it. And I'm thinking about, besides the time and boundaries portion, which is so important, what are some everyday behaviors that a leader could start adopting to really show that they prioritize the well-being of their employees?
Getting up and having conversations. Okay, so if you're in an office space and you have the ability to go have a conversation, get up from your desk, get out of your office and go meet people where they're at and have a conversation that has nothing to do with work. I also think it's important that employees see their leaders get up and go take a walk. Get out of your office, go do whatever you need to do. If it's raining, go walk the stairs, like doing something that shows that sometimes we need a couple minutes to get up and just move around and resituate ourselves. I'm a kinesthetic processor. Most people are. I think it's like 96% of humans do better processing through movement. Novel concept. But to be able to do that means that you are leading by example. So maybe there are situations where we've had heated meetings, all right? People have emotions. We are complicated individuals. We're multifaceted people. How do you diffuse those situations? Because as leaders, we also have to showcase healthy behaviors for our people. I hate the term. We're going to do training on crucial conversations. Okay. We're all humans.
I've done that training, by the way.
Yeah, so have I a couple times where I'm just like, okay. But this is where leaders have a really good opportunity here of showing that what they do from a behavioral stance when those situations occur. Because not all of your team members might be in those meetings or in stressful situations, but how you choose to handle this is very much like parent-child, where you are teaching them how to conduct themselves when situations don't go well. We are very quick to pass blame on situations, and this is a really good opportunity from an accountability standpoint of being like, whew, okay, yeah, that meeting didn't go as well as it should have. I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna go walk, I'll be back in a little bit, I'm just gonna step outside for a minute, and then I'll come back in. I can think of one of my very best leaders that I've had led through quiet influence. Very clear boundaries. We never got an email after 4 o'clock, and we didn't get an email on Monday morning until about after 10. And he didn't believe that there was a need to put people on alarm first thing in the morning or at the end of a week. Like, he didn't want us thinking about things over the weekend. He also always took walks and made it very clear that when it was the end of the official workday, he was up and out because he was going to go to the gym and he was going to go spend time with his family. Those were his priorities. And I think that having a leader that is unapologetic about that is really important for people to see, because it shows that they value other things outside of work just as much as we do. And it was really important to be able to see you can get this stuff done. You just need to figure out where your time leaks are. And then it pushes an accountability thing back to you as an individual contributor, which the best thing with you problems are that you can fix them.
Yeah, and it makes me think about the leaders that I followed, and when they did, take a break to go to the gym, or when they did schedule a doctor appointment and say, I'm going to the doctor, I'm taking, this time out, or they're modeling the behaviors and they're making it okay. Oh, if they're doing it, then that means that I can do it. But if I don't see that, then I'm not as encouraged to prioritize my well-being.
Yeah, and I've seen this at all levels of leadership. At the same organization, our chief financial officer at the time when I was interviewing, I remember her telling me, I've literally never missed one of my child's events.
Love it.
And her kids were now in college at this point. And she had been, the CFO since like her late 20s, if I remember correctly. But so a very long time period where she was like, no, I don't miss that stuff. You can have the flexibility to have a life and also a fantastic career. It's not one or the other, or you have to give and take. It's just going to look a little bit different, but you know your responsibilities. And that's where when we talk about communication, what are your clear objectives that we can hold everybody accountable to? It's just breaking the rules of like a stereotypical, you have to be in a cubicle from 8 to 4:30. That doesn't work anymore. That's not the modern workplace. It's 2025. And also when our employees are struggling, their productivity decreases. So what ways can we work with them and show them that it's okay in certain situations? Like, all right, you need to work from home today. Great. Having some help or some issues maybe at home. Here's EAP. Resources, being a resource. As a leader, it is our obligation and responsibility to be a resource and a connector with our people so that they can actually be better as a result, not just in their work performance, but in who they are as people. Our goal is to grow human beings. We go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Those top two quotients that we look at are esteem and self-actualization. We get that a lot from work by giving stretch assignments, growing in our positions, being more educated, taking on additional responsibilities. And when you get that, that worker voice ends up feeling that they are really a part of something that is investing back in them, which improves well-being as a whole.
Yeah, no, I love it. And what for me, what comes to mind is there's what I think is one of the biggest opportunities for leaders in terms of benefits and wellness is using the benefits.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if I'm a team leader, this happened to me. I was a team leader. I didn't necessarily have a use for the EAP, but I wanted to see how it worked. So that when someone had an issue, I could say, oh, this is how it worked for me. Or if that goes for any benefit, like see how it works, because then you can actually share about it. And then you have this connection with that employee. I think that's a huge thing that most leaders don't really think about that they could do.
I love that. And I've absolutely done the same thing, like whether it be how do you access the gym membership or how do you get that set up, and then just really showing your team, here's how you do it. It's really easy. I want to make sure you guys are aware that these are benefits that we have.
Yeah.
Or showing like, hey, I've got my annual checkup. I'm going in. You guys, this is a great reminder for you guys to also make sure that you're doing this. Maybe you want to set it the same time as your children's annual physical, whatever that looks like. But it's a big lead by example. Hey, make sure that if you are sending out like a weekly newsletter, whatever your communication is with your team for that consistency, that you highlight those throughout the process. And then the why. Why is this important? Why is it important to have an annual or twice a year dental checkup? Why does that matter? How does that impact you?
Yep.
And showing people that it's okay to do it, and then do it yourself. Because what I think we tend to see, if we don't have those proactive leaders that are leading by example on the wellness front, we see what happens as a result of it, where it's gone to the other side, where we've got somebody that's maybe fighting a cancer diagnosis. We are seeing somebody that's dealing with mental health issues within their family. And we see the flip side of like when things go to catastrophe. But our goal is to help prevent as much as possible. So let's say it is something that is maybe mental health within the family and not the employee themselves. If they know how to use EAP, it's not just for them, but also how does that help their family as well?
Right.
And starting to look at how does this ripple effect that you get to set the tone for as a leader, and showing like, hey, and even reminding your leaders, let's say you're a leader of leaders.
Yeah.
Remind your people to check in. Hey, have you guys gone? Like, make sure you're utilizing your benefits. And we used to joke around the last time that I ran like a larger team where it was like, okay, how many people can we get to use their vision benefits by the end of the year? And there was no incentive. It was just us making sure that we were holding our team members accountable for their teams to actually utilize the benefits because everyone was paying for them. Go use them.
Yeah.
Encourage this. Give people an extra half hour, whatever they need to go make those appointments and make them happen.
Yeah, it's that ripple effect of starting at the top and then making it okay for that level of leaders, and then they're gonna pass that along to the next line of management. So that makes perfect sense.
And I remember doing these, like very verbatim, doing these time and time and time again. It would be a reminder from somebody like coaching up of being like, yeah, I've got to go today. I've got my dental appointment. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to put that in our next notes. Reminder, hey, if you guys haven't had your annual checkup yet, make sure that you're doing that. All right. And we'll make sure that we get the time covered. Just make sure that we've got coverage and you move on.
Yeah.
But just easy, little normalizing it and making it consistent communication so it is not, oh, well, Claire's out of the office. Why is she out of the office? No, just go to the dentist. Like, go to the dentist. Make sure you get yourself checked out.
Don't make it weird.
Yeah, don't make it weird. Normalizing it.
Yes.
Normalizing it.
Yes. And so as we wrap up, what would you say? I mean, maybe there's probably a lot of leaders that are like, I don't know. I think I'm doing a good job. Am I leading for well-being? Like, do my people know that, of course, I'm all about their health and well-being? Like, what would you say to that leader who wants to take that first step or has no idea?
Yeah, so I would go ask your team, because if you're asking yourself, does my team know? Chances are it's a no, because we know, like, when you're doing it, you don't have to ask. But I think it's important to say, how is this being perceived? And ask, like, start and open up that conversation and dialogue. I really want to normalize health within our team. What are some areas that you think, like, what would be meaningful to you? I think that normalizing this and having these conversations are a huge breaking point into the barriers that we put up in a workplace with this, like, work versus personal. Well, it is personal. This is how we're showing up as our full selves. And I'm literally, like, in the back of my mind, like, I should make sure I get a dentist appointment. I should make sure I've done this. But then this is where it ripples out of holding each other accountable. Mm-hmm. And this is where if we don't take care of each other, nobody else is coming for us.
No.
So this is a really good point. And it's not just the leader and their team. What about the leader and their peers? And also, beautiful opportunity to coach up. Like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the dentist this week. Hey, you've gotten your checkup too, right? You're showing people how much you care in a really easy way that is a reminder, you're not preaching. It is more of that, like, hey, just want to make sure you're doing this too. Make sure you're taking time out for yourself too. Yeah. And having people hold you just as much accountable as you're trying to hold them.
Yeah, well, I love this conversation because we know, you mentioned Gallup in our last podcast. Yeah. Gallup says that 60% of engagement is determined by the manager. You're literally impacting people's whole lives, mm-hmm. how you show up as a leader. Like, you're making their life amazing or miserable sometimes. And so you can impact, and like you said, not only themselves as an individual, their families, and just their overall work life. So it's just such a privileged opportunity if you are a leader that you can positively impact people.
And it's an easy way to do a big ripple effect too. Like, I used to send out a weekly recap to our team, and it went to everyone. And then I'd send out a leaders one. And if we were going to cover, like, a benefit like that, I would make sure that we did a pretty long thing in the newsletter. And then I do a shorter one with our leadership team that would be like, hey, touch points at your next team meeting. Here are some areas to highlight that would support that benefit. Oh, like, nice. Just so they can then add value, but it's also showing that my leaders were bought in just as much as I would be as, like, the head leader. And I think that when we start to look at how do you utilize the different methods of communication, like, we're talking about why this matters, how it matters, what behavior we're looking to change, but then also doing it in a visual way, but then they are going to take it the next step further and do it in an auditory way that's shared out through actual experiences or just having another way of communicating. So it's not just hey, we saw the PDF that we got from HR on our health benefits. Cool. No, this is where you're taking it that next step. And I think it also opens the door for your employees to then actually tell you when stuff doesn't go well. And it's that deeper level of communication because you've already set the tone of saying, like, hey, I'm going to the doctor, I've got this going on or whatnot. And again, you don't have to give every intricate detail, but it at least opens the doorway that if something's going on, your employee now feels that they have an avenue to come talk to you about where they might have not had before because you've never said that you use these benefits. So if they're going to use it, is it shameful, or have we depicted and disseminated the shame piece and made it normal everyday language?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you making it okay? Yeah. Well, as we close, anything else you want to leave everybody with as we close out this topic?
Well, now I feel like last time I said go get your water, go get hydrated. Now make sure you're getting your dental checkups. Again, a lot of health that is related to that, and I will be getting mine scheduled too.
We'll get it done. Get it done. Well, thank you so much for being here, Dr. Claire. It was a pleasure having you as always.
Thank you very much.